The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
The king of Assyria said, "What? Oh. I must go to the house of the Lord." Eliakim, Shebna, and all the elders and the priests. Just as I am in sackcloth, I want each and every one of you in sackcloth. And go to the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, and say to him, "This is the day of trouble and of rebuke and of blasphemy. For the children are come to birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth. It may be the Lord thy God will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria, his master, sent to reproach the living God. And maybe God will reprove the words which he had heard. So lift up the prayer, Isaiah. Lift up a prayer to the Lord for the remnant who are left."
Step into the heart of a kingdom under siege in 2 Kings 19. In this gripping chapter, the faithful King Hezekiah faces an existential threat and turns to the prophet Isaiah for divine guidance. Join us as we unravel a tale of unwavering faith, miraculous intervention, and a timeless message of hope against all odds. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast, here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay
and Earl Roberts. We definitely appreciate everyone for tuning in. We definitely appreciate the support. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and share with a friend if you like our content. We definitely appreciate it. So, how are you feeling, man? Just getting back from traveling, world travelers.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I just came back from United Arab Emirates, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Spent most of the time in Dubai though, but I'm still getting used to just the sleep pattern and trying to get back to it. Honestly, I got a little bit of a cold, I think, just from traveling in and out of air conditioning and heat, back and forth. My body thought I was under attack. I confused my body. But honestly, it was pretty good, bro. It was really eye-opening, man. I feel like when you read the Bible, I remember reading the Bible as a kid, and you would go to sometimes we look in the back of the book, and they used to have these maps. But it didn't look like maps that we were accustomed to seeing, because it was kind of like, it kind of showed desert, like the way the color, like the way the colors were set up, it was kind of showing like what is the desert, what was kind of Greenland, but was like Greenland, not Greenland, the country. But when you look at a map, everything is just green. Like the whole country is usually green. And so as a kid, I used to look at these maps and I used to be like, bro, I didn't really put together that these places are still here today. Like I used to think like this was some sort part of the world that we don't use or we don't go to anymore. But obviously, you get older and you kind of put things together and you realize, oh, this place still exists. It's not called that anymore. This region still, like Nineveh, like the city Nineveh isn't here anymore, but the region is still there, Saudi Arabia, a place in Saudi Arabia. And even going to the Middle East, it kind of helped me to look at the Bible a little better and a little differently, because you go to these places and you see, Dubai is a newer city, right? But the region, you see very old like architecture and stuff, and I actually went to the desert, first time ever going to a desert, and it kind of helped me to, give me a little bit of context of what the people of the Bible, their weather was like, the conditions they traveled in. Of course, we have like probably global warming, so it might be a little more hot now compared to then. But it was very eye opening to me, seeing this part of the world, seeing the type of people here, and kind of understanding the type of people that lived here centuries ago. So even for context, the Assyrian Empire, like all of this is in the same region. You know what I'm saying? Like the people we reading about today in our lesson today, it's like in the same region. So just going there, it was beautiful. Life changing, some would say. My mom went there a couple of years ago, and she was just blown away. So I had kind of an introduction to it already. So some things that I experienced, I had already learned about. But man, it felt good. It really felt good.
Nothing like experiencing it in firsthand, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Man.
Nothing like it.
That's what's up. Glad you made it back safely, both you and your wife, Yana. Yep. So that's a blessing. And yeah, man, it's good.
Yeah, next stop, we gotta go to the what's it called? The
squad trip.
Yeah, like what the Holy Land. That's what they call it. I was trying to think.
Not the Holy Land experience?
No, that unfortunately that does not exist anymore. We about to have a hospital there.
Boy, I tell you.
Oh man, my light just died, bro. Oh. I guess I'm going with this one again today.
All right. So I actually have a thought for this week. And it's actually been something like me and one of my friends was talking. Actually, like a couple of friends. So I guess it's been like a theme. Interesting. Anyway, I digress. but essentially saying that like in life, anyway, backstory, because my friend was like, he don't know like where he at right now, right? Because like sometimes things don't work out the way you plan it to. And you find yourself in a situation or a place where you didn't expect yourself to be in. And as we was talking, I was like, hey man, like I wouldn't really be discouraged, because I'm like, you're in this place, but things are still working out. And I say in life, God has a funny way of doing things sometimes, and that's like in our perspective, right? I say like God doesn't place you where you want to be. Most times he places you where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And if you're at some place and you still see things working out in your favor, you need to figure out essentially like why God has you where you are. Because it's something you need to learn, it's something you need to go through, something you need to experience. And don't be discouraged because things didn't go the way you wanted it to go. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it caused me to start reflecting on my life. And I'm like, yo, I never really expected to go to Walla Walla University. Yeah. Right? I never really expected to come to Orlando for work. You know what I'm saying? But God in his wisdom knew why I had to go to Walla Walla. He knew why I ended up in Florida for work. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew why I needed to be certain places and experience certain things in life. And that was all a part of my journey of growth. Now, had I done things my way, who knows what might have happened? You know what I'm saying? Who knows what path I might have been on? You know what I'm saying? Like me and you never expected to be roommates before. And if we never were roommates, we would never have this podcast. You know what I'm saying? We would not be 159 episodes in right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like God knew that for some reason, both of us would end up in Florida for work. Both of us would end up being roommates. And by some divine revelation, we would end up starting a podcast about like religion, Bible, Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And that's something he, in his wisdom, he said, like the world needed. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so you never know exactly why certain things happen. But when you look back at it, you're like, it only could be God.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely only God, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It's pretty interesting stuff, bro. I don't know, man. Sometimes you get really in deep thought wondering where you are or what the future has for you. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But I just feel like I'm not trying to be cliche or anything like that, but I just feel like our our main focus should really kind of understand how can we get closer to God and understand when He speaks to us and when He's telling us to actually do something or to actually move. Sometimes when things don't go my way, it's like a light bulb pops up in my head, reminding me how disconnected I was from God when I was making the decisions that I was actually making. And sometimes I regret it. I mean, you should regret it, but sometimes I really regret it because I'm like, man, if I had been more connected to God at this time, I would have heard Him tell me to do this or not to do this. I would have read the signs a little bit more differently. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just feel like past couple of months, I just kind of been on autopilot too, you know, just going, just kind of going through the motions, doing things because because I feel like I should do it. Like I'd be better off, even if I gotta read a text, one verse today, I'd be better off doing that than like not reading it because I don't want to do it. And I laugh because this week I I woke up and I was late. We had to go, we had like a tour or something when we were in Dubai. And it was very early. We had to get up. And I didn't have time to read. I just had to get up and go because I wouldn't have had Wi-Fi throughout the day. And at the end of the day, while I was connected to Wi-Fi, I was still out and I saw a notification that say, hey, like you can still do it. Like you can still read so that you don't break your streak. And I opened my app and closed it because I know the streak would continue, bro. I did not read at all. So it's obviously, it's like it doesn't count, but on paper it does, but that just go to show like even like that just remind me of how like sometimes like even with anything that's constructive, like going to the gym, bro, some days you just really do not want to do it, bro. You just do not want to. Like you tired, you know what I'm saying? Fatigue. But you know that not going is going to hurt me more than actually going. It's like going and not having fun, going and pushing myself through this thing. It's not gonna be easy, but it's gonna be harder not going because I'm gonna be one step away from my actual goal, my training. I don't know, I just kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's like when you do something just for doing its sake, when you do something for the intentionality of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how a lot of Christians, I mean, that's just how we treat God, unfortunately. And I mean, I've been there way more times than I would want to admit, you know what I'm saying? Way more times. But like you start treating God as an autopilot friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey God, I know you're there, but I don't really have time right now to have a conversation, so I'm gonna get back to you later. Like we treat God like how we treat our friends. I mean, and like it's bad because we treat God even worse than that. But it's like we just get caught up with the daily life and the daily grind and what we have going on right there in the moment that we say, oh yeah, I could read right now, but if I read right now, it's gonna be this. Or I should get up and pray, and I should get up and do my devotion. And man, if I do that, this traffic is gonna be, I'm gonna be late for work. I'm just take up. Some got to get cut. Unfortunately, the something most times is God. And I mean, we all could be better with that. We all could be more intentional about it. We all could actually foster that relationship with God. I mean, like, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a relationship with God. Like, how can you form a relationship if you don't make time for it? How can you actually want to decipher His will, hear His voice if you don't make time for it? You know what I'm saying? You ask God for different things, but you never wait to hear the answer. And that's a big thing I'm guilty of. Hey God, like I want this, or like make this happen. And don't really spend the time in His word or praying and meditating or like dwelling on His on godly things to even give God a chance to respond to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, sometimes I'm guilty of. Man, it's time to pray. It's lunch. You by yourself. Man, the fork coming up to my mouth. God is good, God's great. Let's thank Him for our food, body, sounds, we reflect, thank love, to the bread, amen. You know
That's
what I'm
me.
saying?
That's my move.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm praying because I know I need to pray for my
Yeah.
food. But I ain't really thanking God for this food, if we just being honest. I'm just doing something to check the box to be like, okay, I did it. Right?
Mhm.
But there was no intentionality behind it. There was no thought behind it. It was like the autopilot prayer. And think about if you're in the receiving end of that, right? Thank God, thank goodness God isn't a human to treat us like how we treat him. Because I'd be like, bro, you even really thankful right now? You're just more happy that you got this gift. You know what I'm saying? You like this food right now could poison you for real. Like you ain't really blessing this food.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah, it's
that's
going through
something.
the motions. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm more than guilty of this. Like, again, like I probably like 2 to 3 times a day. And 2 to 3 times a day, those prayers are probably those like super rushed prayers. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And you know, when it clicks on me, I try to be more intentional. I try to actually do like a slightly more like honest prayer for the food. But it's just like small things like that like we think are insignificant, but that's truly part of our relationship with God and how we treat God. Like the person who actually provided the means for you to actually eat this food right now, you're just not even really thankful. Because half the time we're like, oh yeah, I just spent my money on this food. Or I bought the groceries, I spent the time cooking it, like this is food that I made. Like, why am I blessing the hands that prepared the food? It's my hands. You should be blessing, you should be asking for blessings when you think about it. Like, if any person should want to be blessed is you. Like, but
Oh man.
man. All right. So in this episode, we are in 2 Kings 19.
Yep.
Man, it's been a while since we recorded. So what happened last week?
Last week was Hezekiah.
Yeah, the
We
intro
talked
to
about
King
it.
Hezi.
Yeah, he was a righteous man, but when stuff hit the fan, he ended up paying that price. When Sennacherib then put that pressure on him, he ended up paying the bill. You know, I was actually reading
Go for it.
in the Britannica account of Sennacherib. They was talking about just the military conquest between the Assyrians and tension that arose with them and the Chaldeans, basically the Babylonians. And they were saying how Egypt, bro, it was so crazy, bro. And this is only a summary. They were saying how the Assyrians were backed by Egypt, and they attack a bunch of cities, including Israel, but they didn't fully destroy Israel because Israel paid a hefty fee, you know what I'm saying, for them to stop. And we could see that in 2 Kings 18. But the reason why I'm really talking about Egypt specifically is because I don't know if you remember in the speech.
Yeah, your boy was like, you weren't but Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt, they so fickle. Like, it's like, oh man, I can't remember the exact words, but he say something like you would try to lean on Egypt and they would pass your hand. And I was like,
verse 24.
I'm like, yo, all right, let's see, verse 24, it says, how then will you repel one captain of the least of my master's servants and put your trust in Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Have I now come up without the Lord against
I think 21 then. Go like
it was something before that. Now look, you are trusting the staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who trust in him. So it's like, you can see this Pharaoh was probably a snake, you know? Like,
yeah.
Bro, that is crazy. That is crazy. And so,
Egypt
yeah.
was like, all right, we got back both sides, remember, win-win, and we in the good book regardless.
Yeah. Boy. And the Assyrians knew that. They knew Judah had the support of Egypt because they also had the support of Egypt. So it was kind of like 2 against 1. Like, it was kind of like Egypt saying, yeah, you know, we had back you, Assyria, but guess what? I back Israel too. I back Judah too. So I know y'all probably could beat them. You see what I'm saying? But just so it ain't no confusion, I back in both of y'all, you know? Man,
Egypt,
just double
boy,
dipping,
Egypt.
man. That's crazy. And so, yeah, last week, so basically, just as a synopsis, the Assyrians, they announced war against the people of Judah. And they also sent messages to Hezekiah saying, this is what our king says. Y'all are not going to beat us. That's a fact. We beat everyone. We every god that everybody who claim they have faith in their God, we beat them. You know what I'm saying? So do not have faith in your God. Do not have faith in Hezekiah. If Hezekiah tells you that y'all gonna win, do not have faith in that. You know what I'm saying? And actually, Hezekiah is still a little kind of gray to me, but I believe that they announced this, then they had a little bit of some battles that happened, and Hezekiah and Judah, they lost tremendously. And it came to the point where Hezekiah actually did oblige and pay Sennacherib for their peace and their freedom. And now that leads us to this chapter. So their pride is now wounded, their pockets wounded, and their city had been attacked. So that's what leads us to this chapter.
Mm-hmm. So reading from 2 Kings 19, verse 1. And so it was when King Hezekiah heard it that he tore his clothes, covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. Then he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered in sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, son of Amos. And they said to him, Thus says Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble, and rebuke and blasphemy. For the children have come to birth, but there is no strength to bring them forth.
Mercy.
It may be that the Lord your God will hear all of the words of the Rabshakeh, whom his master, the king of Assyria, has sent to reproach the living God. I will rebuke the words which the Lord your God has heard. Therefore, lift up your prayer from the remnant that is left. So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and they said to him, Thus you shall say to your master, Thus says the Lord. And Isaiah said to them, Thus you shall say to your master, Thus says the Lord. Do not be afraid of the words which you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Surely I will send a spirit upon him, and he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword of his own land.
Mercy.
So verse 8, Then Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warning against Libnah, for he heard that he had departed from Lachish. And the king heard concerning Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia. Look, he has come out to make war with you. So he again sent messages to Hezekiah, saying, Thus you shall speak to King Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you, saying, Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Look, you have heard what the king of Assyria has done to all the lands, utterly destroying them. And shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered those whom my fathers have destroyed? Gozan and Haran and Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telassar. Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sheravim, Hena and Eva? And Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. And then Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord God of Israel, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are God. You alone of all the kingdoms of the earth, you have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. And hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to reproach the living God. Truly, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste to the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were not gods, but the work of man's hands, wood and stones. Mercy. Therefore, they destroyed them. Now, therefore, O Lord, our God, I pray, save us from his hand, that all the kings of the earth may know that you, our Lord God, you alone.
Well, that's a lot. All right.
And that's an
Firstly,
earnest prayer. Going back to our previous thought and tying, like, that's a super earnest prayer. Now, it might come under duress, but it's a super earnest prayer, super thoughtful prayer, and saying, Lord, I know you are God alone. We have this guy here blaspheming you, God. Yeah, I know he killed a lot of people and threw their gods in the fire, but they weren't gods, Lord. We all know they just was idols, just made of wood and stone, so therefore they could be destroyed. But you, God, you can't be destroyed. And you can't let us, your people, get taken out like this.
And it was kind of interesting because just last chapter, they were saying how Hezekiah was unlike any king.
He was like David.
He was like David.
First one like David.
He's the first one like David. And
he was more David than Solomon.
Really, he's more David than David son.
All right, keep going, my bad.
He destroyed the high places and stuff. So it's like, if we have a righteous man, right? And it was kind of like out of character because he chose to pay off the king. But we didn't hear him praying to God. You know what I'm saying? And so that more than likely was the area of weakness at the time. But now we see it coming into effect. We see his relationship to God, in full display right now. It start off that he was in distress. He tore his clothes, covered himself in sackcloth. That's how the chapter starts. And they went to go see Isaiah the prophet. It's the same Isaiah that that has a book later on in the Bible. He has a pretty lengthy book, I think like 60-something chapters. It also, that book, he also prophesies of Jesus is coming, you know what I'm saying? Wounded for our transgressions. Pretty common quote from that book. And Isaiah tells him, bro, this is a day of trouble and blasphemy. That's facts. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm sorry. They said that to him. But Isaiah says, bro, do not be afraid. Because the Lord will send a spirit, that gets him to depart. And now Hezekiah is praying to God even more. So even though Hezekiah, he had his faults, you know what I'm saying? Even though he made that poor mistake, what's beautiful about this is that he's actually turning to God in the way that we expect the kings of Israel, the kings of Judah, to react. And so the battling the Assyrians is not uncommon. This has been happening for multiple kings. It's been a lot of kings that have faced the Assyrians, bro. This has been happening since what's the name? King Ahab. They was fighting the Assyrians. You know what I'm saying? This has continued to happen, and it's not often that we see people petitioning God. We see Ahab, a prophet came to Ahab and saying, "Yo, this is what God's gonna say." But a lot of times people just take their L, and it's been happening so long to the point where Sennacherib, he have a pride to him. You know what I'm saying? He has this gall and this gusto, and it's to the point of blaspheming. But at the same time, in the last chapter, he was saying the Lord sent him. The Lord sent him, and he's victorious. But at the same time, he still does not acknowledge that the Lord gave him victory. He acting as if the Lord suggested to go do this, and I do all the work. But he's not acknowledging that he's victorious because of the Lord. Elisha, when prophesying that Hazael would be king, he was also an Assyrian king. Elisha prophesied all of the things that he would have done. If God can show you what you're going to do, you don't think God can stop you from doing it? You don't think God permitting you to do this? But we have this king who just really, he's so proud of all of the victory him and his forefathers have had that he completely neglects any outside. Well, not I can say any. He neglects any affiliation or any assistance or anything that Yahweh did for that. He completely denies it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, Hezekiah, like you say, earnest prayer. He praying his heart out. He praying like his life dependent. You are God. You are the Lord. You alone. You know what I'm saying? And, that's what we expect for the leader, the spiritual leader. Well, I don't know. That's what we expect the leader of that country to, that's how we expect them to act during these circumstances.
Yeah, and what gets me is like we know Hezekiah made it to God eventually, but to your earlier point, this should have been what you did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, it just begs the question, like how many times that we only go to God when we're at like rock bottom, when there's literally nowhere else to turn, versus when we could have gone to God when there were more options on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it sucks that like a lot of times we wait till we're in dire straits to be the time when we actually just turn to God. When if we had done this earlier, I phrase that this is the wrong analogy, but it's like we give God more to work with.
Mm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We put him in a box. Like we give him more confines.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just because now, more could have been done. You might have not even been in this predicament all to begin with, but you didn't trust me at first.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're back really against the wall. And now is the time you're actually coming to me. Now we serve a great, good, and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love. So God don't care, but God is goodness enough. He can turn any situation around for us.
Mm-hmm.
But had it been that you gone to him earlier, could have saved yourself some heartache and pain.
Yeah.
So in verse 20, you got something else? Sorry.
No. Mm-hmm.
So verse 20, then Isaiah, the son of Amos, sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, because you have prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, I have heard. This is the word the Lord has spoken concerning him. All right. Now we get into some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This literally sound like Isaiah. Like you go to Isaiah, we'll be about to go through. This is like chapters of just stuff like this.
Yeah.
So the virgin, the daughter of Zion, has despised you, laughed you to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head behind your back. Whom have you reproached and blasphemed? Against whom have you raised your voice and lifted up your eyes on high against the Holy One of Israel? By your messengers, you reproached the Lord and said, By the multitude of my chariots, I have come up to the height of the mountains, to the limits of Lebanon. I will cut down its tall cedars and its choice cypress trees. I will enter the extremity of its borders to the fruitful forest. I have dug and drank strange water, and with the soles of my feet I have dried up, and all the brooks of defense. Did you not hear long ago how I made it, from ancient times that I formed it? Now I have brought it to pass that you should be, for crushing fortified cities into heaps of ruins. Therefore their inhabitants had little power. They were dismayed and confounded, and they were as the grass of the field, and the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and green blighted before it is grown. But I know your dwelling place. You're going out and you're coming in, and your rage against me. Because your rage against me and your tumult have come up to my ears, therefore I will put my hook in your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way which you came. This shall be a sign to you. You shall eat this year as such as it grows of itself. And in the second year, what springs up from the same. Also in the third year, sow and reap, plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. And the remnant who escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant. And those who escape from Mount Zion, the seal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Therefore, thus says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor build a siege mount against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return. And he shall not come into the city, says the Lord, for I will defend the city to save it, for my own sake and for the sake of my servant David's.
So in all of that poetry from Isaiah, it's like I kind of got lost when he said, "This shall be a sign to you. You shall eat this year such as grows of itself, and in the second year what springs from the same. Also in the third year sow and reap, plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. And the remnant who have escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward." Right? For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant, and those who escape from Mount Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Right? I'm like, what is this sign depicting? Like this is a sign to say what is going to happen, because in the context of the war right now, God is going to deal with this right now. He's going to deal with the king of Assyria right now. But he's saying this should be a sign, and this multiple years, like just 3 years worth of signs that you're going to see, but is this?
It's actually something that happened when they actually invaded.
Okay.
So it's crazy. Like, we're reading it now, and it's kind of like poetic. But when they invaded, like, I think the invasion prevented them from actually like reaping and sowing effectively. So this happened like in like around 700 BC. So again, thousands of years ago, right? But like when they invaded, they couldn't. It essentially messed with the agriculture of the area.
Okay.
And so and that's why I was like, yeah, this year y'all gonna have enough. The second year, kind of, the third year, it ain't gonna be as much, something like that. But like it kind of happened. It happened. I don't have like the full context, but I know like that actually like happened. Okay,
so that makes sense, because it's one thing for y'all to be saved right now, but you can still say that's just a coincidence. They can come back, because the Assyrians, this been happening, king after king after king. This been a consistent enemy of both Israel and Judah for a long time, for a very long time. Okay, yeah. So
go for it.
That part just was confusing me, because I'm like, let's say that's 3 years of prophecy, right? This gonna happen, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. But now, if in the fourth year, if they had said these 3 things happen, and you know for a fact that the Lord will hear your cry, it's like, all right, cool. But they say these things gonna happen, and then it's like, now as for the king of Assyria, we could deal with him right now. You know what I mean? So what the sign should be, like, what's the sign like actually showing? But it definitely makes sense that it was multiple things happening in their city at once, and this sign is covering both of those things.
There's also like a prophecy to them too, like, for a remnant of Jerusalem shall, like, from Jerusalem there shall be a remnant, because now they're going to give them hope, like, the Syrians here to utterly destroy y'all. So the matter of fact that a remnant will be left is just showing like God will preserve you guys. Like, y'all ain't going to be utterly destroyed as the Assyrians would love to do to you guys right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I was still like, hey, you ain't coming into the city. You ain't even shooting an arrow there, bro.
Nope.
And guess what? You ain't even coming to defend it either. You ain't coming there with a shield. You ain't attacking, and you ain't gonna beat us saying you can defend yourself. You ain't, nope.
No,
you ain't even going to encamp and say you lay in siege to the city. Nothing is going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the type of, these the type of chapters that, like, when the prophecy, like, in your favor. Because it's like during this era, like, a lot of prophecies was like, bro, no, destruction is coming. Destruction is coming. Hear me loud and clear, but don't be mistaken, But yeah, this one of them ones where God is prophesying protection is coming. Cool.
Yeah, and then it also shows, like, I like how God showing, like, you wouldn't ask why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for my own sake. You know what I'm saying?
And for David.
And for David's sake. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made a promise to David. I can keep the promise. But even outside of that, I do this for my own sake. I think so much times, like, we as Christians, and I talk about myself for a minute, right? I get so caught up in having to, like, defend Christianity and defend God's glory and, like, become so defensive. And then you read stuff like this and, like, God saying, hold on, buddy. I could do about it all by myself.
Or I could defend myself.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can do this all on my own. I don't need you guys to do this for me. Like, I can defend my own glory.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, God saying, you don't come and disrespect me in front of my own people. Like, all the conquests you doing, you might not even worship me, but I allowed you to do that. Now you come and trying to attack me saying, like, your God ain't going to deliver you. What about the other nations? Now you try to compare me to these other gods, like, oh, this is blatantly disrespectful.
You're running out now.
You know what I'm saying? I need to calm you down. I need to humble you a little bit.
Let's see what this album, right? See what this album when I give you all too much. But what also is telling though is that he said, I will defend the city to save it for my own sake and my servant David's sake, but not for their sake. You see what I'm saying?
They don't deserve it.
Right. So, and that's clear. It's clear, bro. Y'all are getting what y'all earned. Y'all earned this, you know? And it gives a little context because I'm like, bro, when the righteous king in power, y'all about to end the city at the same time, and y'all just finished ending the northern kingdom while a wicked king was in power. These people have to pay off now. Now, in all fairness, the northern kingdom of Israel, there's a few times they had to keep paying off them kings. And it probably came to the point where the payment wasn't enough because, no, it came to a point where the payment wasn't enough because remember the northern kingdom, they tried to side with Egypt. And the Syrians was like, what? Y'all paying them instead? Oh, no. All right, I coming and taking y'all out.
Egypt,
you see what I'm saying?
Like,
Egypt, they snaky. They snaky. Wow, bro. They just playing with Israel and Judah, bro.
Mercy.
For real. But all right, so now, you know, cause it kind of makes you wonder how they end up in this predicament, bro. Like we have a righteous king, and just because it's a righteous king, that don't mean the whole city is righteous, you know. But I would think that, you know, like how they say, the prayers of the righteous availeth, you know. And I would think that with this king being righteous, that would hold some weight in how his kingdom was going to happen. Like you don't want to see the king, the person that's being faithful to God and all the bad things just happening to him. Whereas the opposite, you have super wicked kings who just was having a free ride, like Jeroboam. We ain't really hear him with too much war and thing that was happening with Jeroboam. Mind you, they had farming now, I ain't gonna lie. They had farming there in that time, that's facts. But it's like, we know why y'all had the farming, but even now we see why y'all had won, why y'all not being victorious against the Assyrians. And the Assyrians saying, we destroying everybody. Everybody, bro. But now the people of Judah, it's like, bro, are we everybody? We God's chosen, right? Like we a holy nation, quote unquote. So why are we getting the same fate as everyone? And now when God actually defending them, he said, make no mistake, I am defending you all for my sake and for the sake of David. David was a righteous man, and I promised him that his generations would be straight. And so because of that, I am going to keep this promise, but it's not because of what y'all did. And also, I also don't desire to be classed with these other gods. They destroying these gods and throwing them in the fire. First of all, you can't destroy me. But now, y'all, I don't even want to give y'all the illusion that y'all destroy me in any type of way. And so now I'm going to put an end to everything that's happening with this Sennacherib fellow.
So you released like someone from the islands just now. It's like my grandpa boy. That fella.
Fella.
Oh, Mark. So now we get to verse 35.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass on a certain night that the angel of the Lord went out and killed in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when people arose early in the morning, there were corpses all dead. Mercy.
Telling you.
So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went away, returned and remained at Nineveh.
Peace.
Hey? Oh, well, that's strange. Well,
Yeah,
let me get out of here.
I'm out. I'm out.
But again, like, so said, so done. So we see, like, prophecy was given and prophecy was fulfilled. Like, y'all ain't coming into the city.
No.
Y'all ain't even going to be able to shoot an arrow at the city or lay siege to this city or even bring a shield or come before it with shield. One night, 185,000 people just dead?
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Bro, that's a lot of people, bro.
Yeah, and that's disheartening, bro. See, boy, you ain't even say, all right, let's say it was 300,000 and more than half gone. Like, you might be like, yeah, there's still enough. You know what I mean? No, they're like, bro, we out, bro.
Bro, that's
It's
like
bro.
waking up and literally like 2/3 of the population in Nassau died.
Yeah. It's
That's
insane,
just
bro.
insane.
Yeah, no, that's actually crazy, bro.
Like, it's like you read these numbers, right? When you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But you start putting it in perspective, like,
Yeah.
that's just wild. And then King says, well, I'm out.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
out.
that probably was disheartening to the point where he like, bro. I remember one time, bro, I go on to play ball around the corner. My friend, he had a basketball goal in his yard. But I go on to play ball, but must see the first or second play of the game, bro. Somebody must see miss or block a shot. And them iron fence we have back home, they have like a sharp top. It's almost like a spear. Like it's like a triangular sharp top.
Mm-hmm.
The ball hit that and instantly got deflated. The first play of the game, bro, like one of the early plays in the game. I just take my ball and I walk home, bro. Like, mind you, I come there to play and have fun with my friends, But when my ball get like blowout, I just like, man, all right. My evening is over, bro. It might have been like 5 p.m., dog. We playing until the street lights come on. You know what I mean? Like, you outside, you playing for the rest of the day. That just make me say, but anyway, they going home. And everybody follow me home because they thought I was going to tell my mommy, and the person who hit the ball out was going to get in trouble or something. But I was like, bro, that's, in my mind, I was like, man, it was an honest mistake. It was an honest mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? And that just reminded me of that, bro. Like, you wake up and a bunch of your crew dead? Man, it ain't gone, bro. I mean, it don't matter no more, bro. It don't matter no more, but your heart is gone. And so he gone to Nineveh.
But the funny thing about it is, right? I know you may mentioned this before. I don't know if it was on pod or pre-pod because we talk so much. It's a good thing, not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But you was making reference that, like, the historical accounts just show that there was a siege and then they just left, right? Sennacherib actually have stone or something that's on display in the British Museum. That's a whole different story about, Europeans taking other people's culture. But on the stone, he actually kind of like, I think it's a prism or something, they call it. Anyway, he actually kind of dictates his story, right? And on it, you kind of see like he wasn't really disheartened, but he was still full of pride.
Oh, okay.
He was actually still full of pride. Like, like, I'm still this good king. Like, I did these things to Jerusalem and they just had to pay me. Type thing. Yeah, we kind of got defeated in battle. Essentially, this is what called like, yeah, we just left them alone.
Oh.
Well, they don't really record the death part of it or anything like that. It's like, yeah, they paid us tribute. We left them alone. But he was still pretty prideful of everything he did. He just did.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that because in the British Britannica article I was reading, they was saying how in Assyrian history, there's only mention of one battle, but the biblical account mentions multiple battles. You feel me? But the Assyrian account make it say like it was just a one and done. You know.
And again, it's like, you know, you get to choose the side of history you want to record. Whatever makes you seem like, you know, the best ruler that you could be. And between, we want to read verse 37, right? Between verse 37 and 36 was about like 15 to 20 years.
Oh, okay.
And that's why the Bible will say, now it came to pass. So it's about like 15 to 20 years that passed in between that. So he gone to Nineveh and he ain't come back. He was just like chilling back in Syria. He's like, okay, I ain't gonna mess with them too more right now. Because back in my bro, I just see 185 people die. Now I ain't gonna mess with them no more. But I still living high and mighty as the big bad king over in Assyria. So they say in verse 37, as it came to pass, as he was worshiping in the temple of Nishkrosh, his god, that his sons, Adremelech and Sherezer, struck him down with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Ararat. Then Ashkelon, his son, reigned in his place.
Yeah, so in the article, they were saying that it just be so funny, bro. History compared to the Bible, bro. They were saying it's great debate as to how how he died and by whom, but everyone agrees that he was murdered, right? And some people, she said, most people believe he was murdered by his son. But which son is the question, right? Mind you, the Bible of it clear as day. They named the two sons. You see what I say? But they was kind of speculating on which son, and it was kind of based on motive. You know what I mean? So they say he was estimated to have about 10 sons, right? But this is Sahardon, gentleman, he was the youngest son. But he was not a lawful heir because his mother was not a noble.
Interesting.
Right. And so his first son died, I think, in battle. And so he had a second son who was the rightful heir, and he didn't get it. So the British Britannica was basically saying they think a lot of people believe it was him who killed Sennacherib because he felt that his throne was usurped or whatever. So yeah, the motive is there. You know what I mean? But the Bible explicitly states the two sons, Adremelech and Sherezer, struck him with a sword and escaped to Ara. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, it's funny though, but
you're like, it ain't even gotta be that complicated.
Real talk.
So overall thoughts of this chapter?
Overall thoughts, man, we got a very boastful king. So we familiar with the Assyrian Empire, right? And they really heating up now. They really, really heating up because we see where they actually conquering cities and they kidnapping people. They taking them captive, I should say, i.e. the northern kingdom of Israel. But now we see Judah, they had the opportunity to do that, but they chose to take a pay because it's much easier for me to just take money from y'all now because I can always just capture y'all later. But once I capture y'all, I mean, that's a one-time payment. You see what I'm saying? I can get or whatever. But even in the midst of this great empire, Assyria, we see that God is delivering his people for God's sake. We know, for a lot of people know how the story of Judah, the southern kingdom, is gonna progress, right? But it's important to note that it didn't have to progress the way that it did. You see what I'm saying? And we know why. We know why it ended up the way it ended up because we know why the first nation ended up the way. the way that they ended up. When Israel was taken captive, the book is the Second Kings. They make it very clear. They make it abundantly clear why it happened. They talk about all the witchcraft. They talk about child sacrifices. They follow after this king of Jeroboam. But then they also talk about Judah. They say in Judah, even Judah started acting like that. You know what I mean? So now we have an opportunity right now where we have this righteous king. He take it down the high places. He see what happened to their brothers, their brother nation. And now it almost appeared that was going to be their fate. Hezekiah even thought it was going to be their fate, to the point where he actually said, man, I just to pay them off, to buy us some time. And now when y'all get a little bit of breathing room, Hezekiah was like, God, you hear how this man talking, bro? It ain't even that they beating us, you know. They blaspheming you. That's facts, bro. They saying you're not going to help us. They're saying we should not have faith in you because you just like every other God. And while God still felt like y'all deserve this, y'all earn this, the Lord decided to show them grace and mercy for God's sake and for King David's sake. But that does not absolve them of the wickedness that they were doing. So this was actually a very pivotal part. And we're going to see that as the kings progress, we're going to see that this was a warning. This was as big a warning as you would get to say, bro, this is the time to repent and to turn away. However, as the story goes, we know Israel did not oblige, but it's not because of God that they was punished, but it was because of their apostasy.
The southern kingdom of Judah had been defeated, and Hezekiah paid the Assyrian king to cease war. However, the Assyrian king spoke boastfully against Judah and against the Most High God. And when Hezekiah cried unto God for deliverance, the Lord answered his prayer. But now Hezekiah needs to be delivered again, but this time from a terminal illness. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at